I am Jim Collison, and this is the Wellbeing at Work with CliftonStrengths podcast recorded on January 28th, 2022. In this Clifton Strengths podcast, we'll look at the strengths, insight, and action planning items from Appendix 1 in the Gallup book, Wellbeing at Work, one theme at a time. And today's theme is empathy. If you're listening live, love to have you join us in chat. If you are listening to the podcast version or on YouTube and you have questions, you can always send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Dr. Jacqueline Robinson is our host today. She works as a Gallup Learning and Development Consultant and was the primary contributor to in Appendix 1 in Wellbeing at Work. And Jacqueline, always great to be with you. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
As we start this, let's think about empathy and let's just do the standard definition. What do we say about empathy?
All right. People that lead with the empathy theme can sense other people's feelings by imagining themselves in others' lives or situations.
We're going to really dig into this today. And as we think about this theme definition in the context of ourselves and others, what does that look like? Just expand on it a little bit.
So, how it relates to you as someone in touch with senses and emotions, you were able to experience the highs, lows, and everything in between when it comes to your day to day experiences. I think that brings much color and insight to your life and the lives of other people. How it relates to others, others value how much you understand them and feel comfortable coming into you, coming to your office, coming to your household to share out their experiences and their feelings.
As we're recording this in early 2022, I think it's no secret of what's going on. But to be honest, throughout
hmm
time, there's always difficult moments. And folks with empathy, as we think about their own well being, let's talk about it in the context of what does empathy look like when it's thriving? And then what does it look like maybe when it's struggling?
Yeah. So thriving, this person is thriving when they can pick up on their own and or others' emotions. And I would say drive them towards something positive, whether it's working through adversity and coming through it stronger as a team or family, or understanding emotions and thoughts so they can be understood and managed. Or, we could even switch out the word managed for regulated. Struggling is when this person is carrying the emotions of the world on their shoulders with no outlet for offloading that emotional burden or toll. And this also makes it much more difficult to tend to their own well being and emotional needs.
I think what's been different is we think about the last couple crises. I don't know how to say that word right, but crises. I think
It's the
I got it
morning.
right
We'll
there.
give you a
Yeah,
pass.
yeah. What's the plural? Financially, maybe we think about 9/11, at least here in the United States, but what that meant
Mhm.
for around the world. Think about the Great Recession of '08 and '09. But then we think, certainly what since early 2020, what the pandemic has meant, and I think it's jostled or changed or messed with folks' emotions maybe more than any the other two did before that, and so I think it has this big well-being effect on it,
Mhm.
and so I think those high with empathy, this is one. I haven't said this for the others, but I think this is one high in empathy need to check themselves in this, right?
Yes.
Really, really important from a well-being standpoint, as well as having the superpower to check in on the well-being of others. How are they feeling? How is this? Where is this happening? This is just presented new and
Yes.
more opportunities, right? I don't know. Anything else you want to add to that thought on the well-being side? And then we'll talk a little bit about it compared to well-being specific.
No, I love that. With that spidey sense they have of how other people are feeling, um, they really can check in on them and say, "How are you?" and already have a sense for what's happening. But they can be their rock during this particular point in time.
Yeah.
But you also said something that's really important is, are they still taking time to manage their own emotions,
hmm Does that
which is
spidey
so important.
sense work for themselves? I
Yes.
mean, I'm genuinely I don't know. Like, we talk about that with others, but does that work internally? I don't know, maybe the chat room we can talk about this in the post
hmm
show, but what does that look like? Any thoughts on
Yeah.
that working for themselves?
Um, what I've heard is that quiet time helps sort through what is my emotion and what are the emotions I've picked up on through the day. So there is that spidey sense to be able to process what you're going through, but it's that process time I think is often fundamental. I wouldn't even
Mm,
say a bonus, but fundamental in order to manage and regulate the emotions.
mm,
It's what I've
yeah.
certainly heard from those with empathy over the years that have this high.
I've been doing this for 7 years. This is the first time I've thought about it. This is why I love what we do in this
I
the like, it
know.
never gets you never know it all, right? I'm trying
Yes,
to think, man.
constantly learning and building our
Yeah.
knowledge
Yeah,
base.
no, it's great. I've got some thinking, to do, which I won't do in a very disciplined or empathetic way. But, we'll figure out some ways to get it done. In the back of the book, in Appendix 1, we look at each of the 5 elements of well-being by the theme. And Jacqueline, what do you
Yes.
have for us today as we look at this?
We're looking at social well-being. It's a perfect time for those with empathy to just take a breath and think about that social element. So the context here is friends and family value how much this person understands them. However, because of their high empathy, they might not pay attention to their own needs. Encourage them to spend time with people who give them positive energy.
Mm.
That is your way to recharge.
I love that. There are 4 other examples in the back of the book, and while I think it's definitive in Jacqueline's mind, it's certainly not definitive from the world. We'd love to hear your, as far as you take those well-being elements based on these themes. I think there's just a
Mhm.
a million different things we could be doing,
For
um,
sure.
available there in Appendix 1. So, Jacqueline, with empathy, how can this really be used then to support others? Because this is really why we do this, not about us, but about
Mhm.
others. How do we use this to support others?
If you are a manager or you're leading a team, your natural ability to sense the highs and lows of each team member can assist you in customizing your conversations with them. And you might quickly recognize when they need a cheerleader or a mentor or a coach and ask questions that will open up the conversation more. If you're on a team, others around you feel seen, heard, and valued due to your ability to sense what they're going through. Your understanding, particularly when it's used with purpose and intention, can help them work through obstacles or you can help them celebrate those wins. And then as an individual, journaling or meditating daily can really help you sort through the emotions of the day. So some emotions you may be able to just, disregard or discard once you've processed them, while others might require some additional attention. So if they do require attention, what's the next step that you need to take? Sorting regularly might really help you regulate your emotions more effectively.
When you were talking about, being a leader or manager, I think you said to
Mhm.
hear the conversation more. There was a phrase you used. What was that phrase when we look at leading a
Yes.
team? Say that again for me.
Yeah. So if you are a manager leading a team, that natural ability to sense the highs and lows of each team member assists you in customizing your conversations.
There we
So you
go.
might quickly recognize when they need a cheerleader, a mentor, or a coach, and you can really just ask questions that are going to open up the conversation more based on that spidey sense that you're picking up on.
Open up the conversation. That's what I was looking for. Open up the conversation more. I think this is
Yeah.
the sometimes we think empathy, so we sense this, but then the
Hmm.
activity is now open up the conversation more. I'm
Yes.
not saying it's not enough just to sense it, but to the I think that positive action, right, is
Hmm.
whether that's leading, this can be done both as a manager and team, even maybe on the individual level of understanding what do we how do we talk about this more?
Hmm.
How do we communicate better on this?
Yep.
Maybe really speeds up that conversation on it. Great stuff. Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
No,
Okay.
I'm ready for the
Let's do
asks and the best practice.
All right, in Appendix 2 in Appendix 2, we have a framework that we work through. Actually, I think really helpful in a coaching conversation,
Hmm.
this framework. Walk us through a little bit of this framework as we think about this empathy.
Yes. So ask yourself, how can I spend more time with a friend or colleague today? So I'm pulling from that social well-being piece earlier when I spoke of connecting with people who are positive. This might be a question you ask yourself to identify who those folks are. So how can I spend more time with the friend or colleague today? Ask your team members who needs your support and attention today. And you might help them think through how they can hold that conversation with the individual. And take action is get to know each other's personal interests and hobbies. Um, People might not have the sensory that you do to pick up on feelings and emotions, but the more that as a team you all kind of unite together, or even as a family, and understand hobbies and interests, they can now find a way of really connecting and adapting to individuals around them.
I was having a pretty hard Monday this week. For
Mhm.
whatever reason, by the time I got to about 2 or 3, it was just, it's like I was done. And
Yes.
and I got
Time
on a
out.
I got on a Zoom call, and, you're just trying to push through, right? So I got on a Zoom call, with somebody, and I don't know if they have high empathy or not, but I was talking, they're like, "How are you?" And, so I'm telling them, they're like, "Okay, what's going on?" Like,
Aw.
they just knew in the tone, right? In the tone of
Yep.
it, like, and we're bold enough to, like, "Is everything alright? I mean, is everything okay?"
Mhm.
Again, I don't know, but I think that's that empathy coming out to be able to sense it and have the time to get to the, you know, kinda
Oh,
get to the
yes.
bottom of it and help push through. It is a productivity, of course, the better I feel, the more productive I am, and so to get to the
Mhm.
bottom of some of those things, right? I think we often thought of that as a soft skill, which, by the way, I don't hear anybody saying soft skills anymore. It seems to be
No.
something that disappeared.
No. Soft skill is gone. Emotional intelligence, I don't
Yeah.
even hear,
Yeah.
in orbit too much anymore. It's
Yeah.
well-being.
It's very interesting. Anything else that, you wanna add to this, Jacqueline, before we close?
No, only from those that lead with empathy, I would just say, I hope you're finding an outlet for yourself, especially in these last couple of years, seeing how the emotions have been running high across the world, not even just within a nation. I hope you're finding time to reflect in your own way, whether it's journaling, meditating, being out in nature, um, just centering yourself for a moment. I hope you're finding your support as well.
Yeah, it's good. Good way to wrap it. With that, we'll remind everyone to take advantage of all the resources we have available in Gallup Access. Head out to gallup.com/CliftonStrengths for coaching, master coaching, or become a Gallup certified strengths coach. You can send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. We'll help you get that taken care of. You can follow these webcasts if you want to join us live. Maybe you're joining us live for the first time and you're like, how do I do this more often? Head out to gallup.eventbrite.com. Follow us there, and you'll get a notification whenever we post something new. And we've got these now scheduled well into April, so we want you to be a part of what we're
Yes.
doing here. Then join us on any social platform by searching Clifton Strengths. And if you found this helpful, we'd ask that you'd share it, get it out there. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app as well. I want to thanks for listening today. If you're listening live, stay around for some post show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.